welcome to Soul Symbols. My name is Shelley. I'm a writer, an astrologer, and a card reader, and I'd like to welcome you to my channel. Happy Tuesday. It is How to Tarot Tuesday. And what that is, it is where it's a two-part video. The first part of the video, we discuss the meanings and the symbolism of one of the 78 card tarot. The first deck that I choose that describes the card is always the Rider-Waite-Smith, which is the traditional tarot that's used by most readers. And then I choose two other tarot decks that contain symbolism that I think best represents the card that we're discussing. The first half of the video is discussion about the meaning of the card and the symbols and what it represents. And then the second half of the video, you, the viewer, get to choose from the 3 tarot decks, and we'll go ahead and see how this card manifests in your life currently. That part of the video, the second half where we do the reading, I do clarify using an oracle deck. And if you ever want to skip over the how-to part and go straight to your reading, the timestamps are listed in the description box below, as are the names and the authors of the decks that I use. So we're going to go ahead and jump right in today. Today we are talking about the wonderful Queen of Cups. And this after last week we talked about the Knight of Cups, so I was really looking forward to this card because it's such a nice feminine energy, and it's so mature, and it's emotive, and I just think it's such a nice transition into the King. It's such a feel-good energy. But again, if you ever want to jump straight to any part of the reading, the timestamps are below, and we'll go ahead and jump right in. So when you look at the Queen of Cups, you see a woman wearing very flowing robes. And what's really beautiful is that she's wearing robes that look like really sea blue colors, and her cape almost looks like stained glass. It looks like like patchwork. She has a crown that is much more square. It's a little bit different than the other queens, and she's holding a cup that's very elaborate. The cup on either side has what looks like two either sphinx or two angels, and then there does seem to be something that looks like a cross on top of a lidded cup. Now, in the distance, you see kind of the ledge of what looks like the ocean side. And at her feet, you can see that she has like rounded pebbles, and it looks like her throne is at the ocean. The back of her throne is very rounded and very scalloped. It almost looks like a clamshell. And then you see lots of symbolisms of both angel and fish all over her throne. Her hair is braided, and she always tends to have very kind of light colored locks. So again, she definitely looks kind of ethereal, either kind of blonde in color, or just with lighter hair, or kind of that braided back kind of essence. Now, when readers first see the Queen of Cups, the first thing that we think, and right off the cuff, you think of a very heart-centered woman. You think of someone who is compassionate and loving, someone who is of the water element, and because she's a queen, she is the feminine, mature representation of the cup suit. So this is someone who has had emotional experiences, but yet she has taken those experiences, and it's made her patient, and it's made her nurturing to others. So this is a woman of experience, and what it is that she nurtures others based on the experiences that she's had in her life, right? She's very heart-centered, mature. So again, she's the queen of emotions. She's the queen of deep feeling. When you look at that cup, you notice that of all the cup suit, if you look at the king, if you look at the knight, if you look at the page, it's always an open cup. Here she has a little bit of a lid on it, right? And it's surrounded by angels. So this is a woman who she knows how and when to give of herself. The other thing that I kind of get with the closed cup symbolism is that she never pushes her emotions on others, but she is there to receive or to be of comfort to others, which is always, again, you think of a mature person, someone who is definitely there for you. So it's someone who's very sensitive. She has, she dispels any harsh, she dispels anger and harsh action with love, right? Like this is definitely someone who does not take anything personally, right? Like she meets everything with a kind of fluid kind of resistance. Again, with her being the queen, just like the other four queens, we talked about the Queen of Wands. She is more of an action queen. The Queen of Pentacles is more of a practical queen. And then the Queen of Swords is a very mental and very intellectual queen. The Queen of Cups is someone who's fluid, but she is steady in the sense that you see that the water at her feet is not churning, right? It's calm water. It's almost like she knows how to control the tides. She is in tune with her own emotions, where she does not subject others to her tides, but she understands how others are feeling. She's unconditionally accepting. Again, with that maturity, she understands the ebb and flow of life. A lot of times when you see the Queen of Cups, and it's interesting, when I choose my other two decks, sometimes when I go to my, I have quite a few tarot decks, and when I go to choose the decks for How to Tarot, sometimes it is a little bit of a competition. I really did kind of know what decks I wanted to go with this read, but it was amazing how, like, some of my other decks, like for instance the Tarot of the Divine, she has a very otherworldly. She almost looks like a mermaid. The Starseeker Tarot and the Everyday Tarot by Brigitte Esselmont, all of them have the Queen of Cups depicted as like a mermaid. And that's a popular depiction of this card, just because she's otherworldly in the way that she can handle her emotions. She's of the sea, right? She's of the ocean. The other thing that you get is that she's so sensitive to the feelings of others. It's like she's been there and she understands. So when other people are feeling that way, she can help. She emotes, right? She empathizes. She mirrors, and that's another thing, is that she mirrors. And honestly, the water signs, just to put the astrological hat on for a minute, the water signs you have are Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. And the Queen of Cups can be any one of those signs. Again, she has a lot of fish, everywhere. She, a lot of times, the sign of Cancer is the sign of the mother. It's also the sign of the moon. And when we get to the third card, we're going to talk about that a little bit more. And but and Cancer sun signs are or Cancer anywhere in your chart. I have a Cancer moon, actually, and that's its ruling placement, because it's ruled by the moon, the planet. And it just makes you like very mothering. It makes you very nurturing of others. But what's interesting, and again, we'll go into it more when we get into the third deck, is that it's the kind of nurturing that is not active. It's receptive, right? And if you look at the circle of the yin and yang, yang energy is offense, right? It's masculine energy. It's taking action, while yin is receptive. It's the dark, it's the emotive, right? That's Queen of Cups energy. She is receptive. She almost takes negative energy. It's almost like she kind of bounces it back. Have you ever seen the way that waves hit against a rock and they just splash and then they pull back in with the tide? That's how she responds to anger and hate. She doesn't let it in her bubble, right? So she really has, the other thing is, she has really infinite patience with that as well. It's almost like when she sees the anger, or when she has very balanced emotions, it's almost like she understands negative emotions, and she also knows how to how to keep that out of her sphere, but then she knows how to help people deal with negative emotions. And later when we get into profession, she's definitely like a counselor kind of person. But most of the time it's like she's so emotionally mature that she just doesn't let anything taint her. It stays on the outside of her aura, of her orb. And so a lot of times it can be the sign of intuition. It's someone who's very strong in the intuitive. She understands her emotion. She understands all of the, instinctive kind of messages that she receives. So definitely, it gives her kind of a perception. As a mother, the Queen of Cups is like seriously one of the most nurturing people that you would ever see. It's someone who really she understands the emotional needs of others so well, and this is especially good when you see it, as a mom of children, because it's almost like she understands her kids so well on an emotional level. It's almost like she's psychic in the sense that she can predict what they need. And actually, this kind of transitions into our second card very well. I went with the Witch's Tarot by Ellen Dugan. And I think this is a beautiful deck because you see clear skies, but just like the writer Waite, her throne is like a clamshell, right? And you see she's wearing all blue, and here you see again more calm water, and she's at the sea. And you see stones at her feet. I have a really good I have several really good meditation decks, and a lot of my oracle decks. There's also in the Intuit Oracle by Kimberly Fisher. There's a card that's called Stepping Stones, and it's amazing how when I see these two cards especially, you see how there's rounded stones at the bottom, right, at her feet, right. And it's almost like what I see here, and it's interesting. Like, I'll just transition for a minute here, and I'll touch back. Um, my mom, for instance, like it's interesting. I have astrological hat for a minute. I have a rising at 0 degree Scorpio. And that's kind of like it makes me real deep. It makes me a little bit moody sometimes. And my mom, it's so cute. Like, her sun, her moon, and her Mercury are in the early degrees of Cancer and Pisces. And together we make a grand trine. The degrees of her sun and moon and my rising, they just come together, and it's all three water elements. And she understands when I get deep, when I get moody, when I get opinionated. It's like, and one thing I've always noticed, and especially with her communication, because she also has an early degrees. She has like a 2 degrees Cancer Mercury, which is the way she speaks. When she just and it's actually, her Mercury is conjunct my Jupiter, so like my higher understanding of the world really comes from her. Really, when she expresses deep perceptions, and because it's in a water sign, I think of Queen of Cups. The Queen of Cups, especially the third deck, comes through as my mom all the time. If I'm asking about someone, it's my mother when the Queen of Cups. Either that, it does pop out as the Empress quite a bit, but Queen of Cups, because she also has blonde hair. But one thing that she always said to me that kind of ties into the rounded stones is, I remember one time she said that she told me, and again, it's so instinctual. She uses her imagination to describe complex relationship dynamics. And I remember one time, she got real quiet. We were talking about like family dynamics. And she goes, when it comes to relationships, whether it's romantic or family, she goes, people are like sharp rocks, and sometimes when they knock up against each other, it's almost like we polish one another. We knock off each other's rough edges, right? We make each other smooth, right? And look at how smooth these rocks are at her feet, right? She's known that, right? Also, when you when you think about sea glass, right? When you think about glass that's been in the ocean, when it churns, it smooths, it becomes smooth, and then it washes up on the shore, right? That's the essence of this queen. She understands emotions because she's probably felt it herself or she's experienced it. And just like my mom very astutely said, it's like we polish one another. And it's interesting. I have a friend who actually had a machine that tumbles stones, and when you tumble stones, you tumble them together. You do you there's like a gradient. There's a number. There's a rating for how hard a stone is. Like you can't put a soft stone in with a hard stone, or they'll crack. It won't polish one another. It'll crack it, right? But if you put stones that are of the same density, of the same hardness scale, within like 1 to 2 degrees of the same hardness, you put it in the machine, and then what you do is you throw sand in there, and the sand smooths out the stone. But the other stones in the batch tumbling around also knock up against each other and polish one another. So this is really and you see how the stones are at her feet, right? The other thing is that she's probably the only queen that I've ever seen is barefoot, which I think is really beautiful. You know what? This is actually the first time I've ever noticed this, but I really think that that little blue part is not supposed to be water. I think that is supposed to be her foot. And you know what? I had a whole. If you watch my tarot deck review, I have a whole conspiracy theory. My deck is the AGM version, and I really thought that the clarity, the sharpness of this deck, I really thought that they had the original plates of Pamela Coleman Smith's artwork, but it is popularly known amongst all readers. I don't think anybody has ever seen the real color, unless you look at one of her original decks that was published at the turn of the century. But the actual painting of the cards has always been a little off. I don't think anybody really knows what the first cards look like. But this is the first time I'm ever noticing that. I don't think that she's supposed to have a blue foot. I think that foot is actually supposed to be her foot, but they colored it blue thinking that it was the water. That's the first time I'm noticing that. Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm going to have to throw that into the description. The Queen of Cups blue foot. Sorry, guys. And it's interesting. It's the same thing. She's got one foot tucked behind the other. That's kind of neat. That's really neat. But in that same vein, so again, she has an intuition. She has a perception. This is someone who's very tender-hearted. She is someone who again, she's very moved by the pain of others. She has a sixth sense and like an empathy for other people. This is someone who always reacts with sensitivity and compassion. So definitely, if it's a real Mother Teresa kind of energy, someone who always, the other thing is it's someone who always does the right thing in an emotive sense. Like if you need someone to react, in a positive, nurturing, and heart level way, this is your person. Um, the other thing is that this woman is very kind and gentle to all creatures, so she can be very much a humanitarian. When this comes up, it can definitely be someone who's either vegan or, can be a member of PETA in the sense that they're against animal cruelty. So a lot of times the Queen of Pentacles is very Earth Mother, and this is Queen of Cups, and she's very Heart Mother, right? She cares about the suffering of others, including animals. She could, volunteer for animal shelters, or at like shelters for people. Like she might volunteer for women who domestic abuse, or I remember, what I thought of a few years ago. There's people who knit. There's a group that knits beanies for newborn premature babies, like does little knitting things. The other thing is that there's a group that holds babies, like orphan children or abandoned children. Um, the other thing is that, and again, it's just that kind of altruism, that heart-centered, volunteering at the animal shelter. I used to volunteer at a horse rescue, and that was very, that was so worthwhile to me. And it's getting in touch with all people through kindness. The other thing is that it can be someone who has a very strong psychic ability. Again, the being in tune with your own emotions. This can definitely be someone who meditates. It can be someone who does yoga, does Tai Chi. I really do see this as someone who understands energy real well. So I do think that it's someone who might study either Reiki or the chakras. Like they just know how to channel energy through their body. The other thing is that this person is very, very well in tuned with the way that their physical body interacts with their spirit or their kind of soul, the way that you feel inside of your corporal form, as woo-woo as that sounds. This is definitely someone who would never turn away anyone in need. It would be someone who really, the other thing is with someone who offers a cup. I do think this is someone who might, deliver food. They might do Meals on Wheels or works at the food, why am I thinking, maybe a homeless shelter or, the place that you go to give people food. It is someone who, the other thing is that, I'll go ahead and move into the third deck. I went with the Sun and Moon Tarot by Vanessa Decort. And again, this card just speaks so much. I mean, this definitely makes it look like more of a Cancer woman, but it can definitely be Pisces. Again, you see the full moon, and I love it. You see the lotus flowers and her reflection. And then what I really, really love is that there's this little like stork or heron there, right? And now lotus flowers do speak a lot about the Pisces sun sign. And again, that also speaks of like the chakras, because you think of your root chakra as being like the progression of a lotus. The roots of a lotus go deep into the mud, right? Those are the deep, unconscious. And those are the root needs. It's like where you get your nutrients, and then it progresses through, sacral, all the way through to your crown chakra, and the crown is like the bloom of the lotus, right? The other thing you get is that with the full moon, the moon rules the sun's Cancer, and the moon is a mirror, right? The moon does not shine of its own accord. It reflects the sun's light, right? So the just like, it's interesting, just like the Queen of Pentacles is like the lower octave of the Empress, because they're both Earth Mother, but the Empress really does encompass all four queens. The Queen of Cups is really, she is both connected to the moon card, but she is also she is also like a divine, also similar to the Empress as well, because she is the nurturer. But she, just like the Empress in the tarot is the divine feminine and the Emperor is the divine masculine, the Queen of Cups reflects, with a full moon. The full moon reflects the sun's light, and the Emperor is the sun, the masculine, and the moon is the feminine. Now, one other thing you see is that, I love this card because she also has a cup that's overflowing, right? So her cup overfloweth, right? The other thing that you get is that she has such emotional strength that she has more than enough, because she has so much inside of her. She gives to others. She always gives to others, right? She's an incredible nurturer. The other thing is that you see that she kind of walks on water here, not to be even close to, biblical here, but she knows how to manage right? She is above, she's not afraid of deep emotions. She transcends deep emotions because she's experienced them. Again, she's the emotional, mature feminine of this suit. Now, one other thing that this really does remind me of my mom a whole lot is that my mom moved, so she's far away from me now. We both are in North America, but before she moved, she was only like 3 hours away from me, where I could drive to her, and we would spend weekends together. And she lived near the beach, right? Definitely near the beach, and we would go to the beach together, but near her house she had a lake, and the symbol of our connection, really, or the symbol of her, definitely, was the blue heron. There was a blue heron that lived in her lake. And it's funny, one winter I got real worried about him, because we'd go on walks. When I'd visit her in the summertime, we'd go on walks and we'd see the blue heron. But I remember one winter, he did not fly south for the winter. He stayed, and he just looked frozen. It was really cold. It was a really cold winter, and he was just out in the lake. We found him. He was out in the lake, and he was kind of standing on one foot, and he looked frozen. We were so concerned about him. But we did see him the following summer, so he was okay. But it's interesting how we that was our thing. We used to go look for the heron together, and then we'd see a lot of blue herons, flying around where she lived, and it's interesting. I spent several years in Japan when I was very young, and our neighbors gave us really beautiful origami Christmas ornaments, and we still have them. But for my mom, one year I made her an origami gray heron, and then this last Christmas I made one for myself. So we have matching blue herons. But there's another deck that I have, the Vice Versa Tarot, also has a blue heron, but what I think is a heron. It might be a crane, but it's actually on the back of the card, which is considered the reversal. And that deck was really in competition for the How to Tarot. I decided not to go with it and go with the Sun and Moon instead. But I definitely see those kind of, like, when you see seabirds. That's what I kind of think of, and I think of the gray heron, or I think of a crane. Because it's someone just like the gray heron in my mom's neighborhood. It's someone who senses the climate of a situation. Like they know when to fly south, they know when to stay where they're at. They can also feel other people out. They have this great introspection. The other thing is that this is someone who's very emotionally balanced. If they're feeling like they're in a crazy mood, they'll meditate, or they'll focus. They can figure out what's going on with themselves very easily. So this is someone who's definitely really in tune with their own emotions. Now, in that same vein, it can be someone who has kind of a sixth sense, right? Like someone who can read symbols, and raising your hand. This definitely, the Queen of Cups on a list of significators of psychic, or like medium kind of talents, would definitely be very high on that list. It usually means someone who has a psychic ability. It's someone who is, just because she is so open to her unconscious, right? And because she has such great reserve, and because she can read symbols, and she can read her intuition, and she can feel people out, right? She doesn't go just on what her eyes can see, her physical eyes. She goes with her third eye. She goes with what she senses. So that definitely makes it it makes the sensory of this woman or person, you can be a man in this energy, very attuned. And so you pick up on things. The other thing is symbolisms. I definitely think road signs, and I'll talk about that in situations. But the other thing is that it's usually someone who has a real strong telepathic bond with another person, right? And so first and foremost, this can be a mother to her children. It can be friendships as well, if you have like a water sign person. And I'll just run into that quick story. It's funny. My mom, she is very independent, and she does not smother me at all. But I do notice that, we check in with one another. And it is that, have you ever had it where it had been a week since you've texted your mom or your best friend, and then all of a sudden you were thinking about them, or you saw something that reminded you of them, and then all of a sudden they're texting you. I have that happen with my friends all the time, and I definitely have that happen with my mom. And again, it's that water kind of thread. My best friend also has a stellium of Pisces, and it's amazing how we can feel one another. When we're ready to talk again, it's like, again, she'll reach out to me right as I'm thinking about her, and it's like that telepathic tie that you have with someone. Also, on that note, my mom, it was funny. I do get sometimes busy. I have a day job. I don't, do this full time. I wish I did. But sometimes when the day job gets really, all in, there are some times that I get so caught up in my work, my daily life, that I think that I texted my mom and I didn't. And I remember one time, like, she had texted me, and I thought that I had, like, 2 days later, which is really running long for me, I thought I had texted her back, and I must not have. It was really one of those grueling weeks where I really was forgetting what day it was, much less, did I actually hit send on that text. And then it was funny, probably by the fourth day, she was like, honey, I'm not trying to pressure you. I know you're probably busy, but if you don't text me back, I'm calling the police, And it was just one of those sweet little things where she was probably sensing that I was tired and stressed out, and she was saying, "Okay, look, I know you're probably I heard that you're having a really busy week." And of course she'll reach out to my sister too. We always check on each other, but it's that, like, I'm worried about you. I'm not. I'm feeling you. She could probably feel that I'm stressed, and she does just want to make sure I'm not in a ditch on the side of the road somewhere. So that's the Queen of Cups energy. But it is whether or not you do. This card can definitely mean somebody who does new age practices. Like, it can be a little bit of astrology, but I would probably say, yeah, this card could be that, because this card is not afraid to be different if it feels good to your emotions, right? They don't, the Queen of Pentacles would probably care about the status quo a little bit. They would do things by the book. Queen of Cups doesn't do things by the book. They do things by what feels good or what feels right to them internally. So can be someone who studies astrology. It can be someone, definitely a tarot card reader, someone who does divination. It could definitely be someone who does natural divination, meaning that I always say that I call it road signs. It's like, there's been several times in my life where I've been like, okay, I don't know where to go, and it's almost like closing your eyes and letting the universe guide you. Have you ever seen? There's a thing called there's a old practice where if you take a stick that looks like a Y, like a branch stick, there's this old practice find water by using, like, I know this sounds crazy. I'll try to find an example of it and I'll post it below. But it's like water scurrying, right? You use a stick and it leads you to water, right? It's definitely the same thing with the Queen of Cups. She's very good about reading the shapes of things. And road signs for me always just means that when I ask for guidance and I just kind of let it go, and then all of a sudden I start getting answers in the form of certain symbols, or certain themes start popping up. I see a shape in a sky, or but that's the kind of thing, she follows her gut instinct, and it never leads her astray, right? There's a great writer called J.R. Ward, and she writes romance, writes about vampires, actually. And it's interesting. She's a formal lawyer, and she's really a great writer. It's definitely some racy stuff, but it's romance. But it's action romance. But she always says, she goes, I listen to my Rice Krispies. What my Rice Krispies tell me to do. This is what the Queen of Cups does. She listens to her Rice Krispies, even if it seems out there, right? So it can be someone who looks at candles. It can be someone who scurries. Looks at water, looks at patterns and things, or does any type of new age. Can definitely be a card reader, for sure. Because what do? You look at symbols, right? It could be someone who has really prophetic dreams. And it's somebody who, can she is a good natural kind of mystic, and in that good sense, like she's very in tune with things. The other thing is that she can be an excellent psychologist because, again, it's someone who understands the emotional undercurrents of what someone's experiencing, either because she's experienced it herself or she just really understands things really, really well. So she does make for an excellent counselor. Just like anyone else, she can be a real lover of art or music. This really speaks to me of someone who's also a good dancer, but also just someone who, if she is not someone who practices more of a new age mysticism, she can also be like spiritual in like a Christian sense as well. Like this can definitely be the pastor's wife, or someone who is a deaconess, or someone who is a spiritual counselor, right? It can be like here on YouTube. There's so many thousands of channels that talk about psychological health and how to heal from things. I also think there's a great channel called Psych to Go. It's someone who does these 5-minute videos that just talk about, and what it is it's someone who's there to help people, help guide people to understand themselves more psychologically, for their own well-being. It is also someone who's extremely emotionally generous. Again, this person doesn't have a mean bone in her body. Not at all. She's the one who always has an open door. The other thing is that what I get with this is that she always has like a really warm and inviting home or family. Like she has a very comforting kind of space. Again, just like a Cancer or Scorpio, her home space is very, is cozy, right? It's a safe place. You always feel safe with this woman. And that the same vein, it can be a really loving friend, or your best friend, or someone that really understands the way of your heart. The other thing is that she, when it comes to, I'm sorry, there was one last train of thought that I wanted to touch on. Oh, it's leaving me. Well, probably, I hope it comes back to me. I try to write down all these notes, but it's amazing. Oh, yes, here we go. Speaking of like art and music, this is definitely someone who is good. This person probably has an appreciation of music, or is just good. This can be someone who's a good singer. That's definitely it, because it's someone who connects to music. But one lyric in a song that always reminds me of the Queen of Cups, and real quick, and then we'll talk about situations and people. One lyric is the song Desperado by the Eagles. And in the lyric he says, don't you pick the Queen of Diamonds, boy. She'll beat you if she's able. The Queen of Hearts is always your best bet. And in divination, you've seen me read playing cards before. The Queen of Hearts is the Queen of Cups. And she really is your best bet. She is the big-hearted woman. She is the open-hearted woman. But don't take her for a fool, because she'll know your game, right? And just like any of the queens, if you're coming at her in page or night energy, she can see right through you. You're not fooling anyone. But she's not going to judge you for it, though. she'll still welcome you in, and she'll let you sleep on her couch, and she'll bring you ice cream or bring you coffee in the morning. That's the other thing I get with the cup, is that she'll bring you some hot cocoa, is what I'm kind of getting. She'll always, she knows how to comfort you on an emotional scale. Now, when it comes to situation or advice, this is definitely like the homey woman, right? I definitely see it as like a grandma kind of energy. One thing I always see is in the upright when it comes to situations. I do see it as being someone who's probably about to be a little emotionally spoiled. I have so many friends that, it's funny, my friends have kids, and when they take their kids over to their parents' house, they always joke. They're always like, well, my mom was so strict with me growing up, but the moment I bring the kids, the grandbabies, once the grandbabies come over, they get away with murder, right? The kids, grandma gives them all kind of sugar, lets them do whatever they want. That's the Queen of Cups energy. She really that's the situation. She'll let you, you're about to be, this woman is about to let you do whatever pleases you, right? Um, you know, and, the other thing is that when it comes to situations, sometimes this can be a sign that you're really about to turn inward about a situation. Like, it can mean that it might be asking you to turn inward, or something is really going to let you plunge your emotional depths, and it's going to be a good experience, right? It's going to be something that helps you mature emotionally. And you can be a man in this energy too. If a Queen of Cups situation, if you're asking for guidance or situation, if that pops up, that means that you want to, especially if you see this next to the Hermit, it means that it's almost like it's what it's doing is it's saying, okay, what does your intuition say? What is your intuition telling you? You should trust it. Now, that you should examine your feelings about a situation, because your feelings aren't wrong, right? It also hints that your hunches are, and your intuition is a reliable guide. Follow the white rabbit, even if it sounds funny. Do what your Rice Krispies tell you to do, right? The other thing is that it might be hinting that you're about to have like a really prophetic dream, or that your dreams are really speaking to you, like your subconscious is coming through. It also might mean that the veil's kind of thin. Again, if you're speaking to God, speaking to the universe, it might be sending you answers. And it could be in symbols, it could be in road signs. You might be seeing continuity or synchronicities, and it's really telling you something, right? So look it up in a dream book. The other thing is that a loving friend, again, it can be a situation. It could be that your friend's about to reach out to you. You might be speaking to your mom. Either that, or you might be being real nurturing to someone else. One other thing, it was funny, a few weeks ago I was fussing in one of my videos. I had gotten a splinter in my finger, and it was the first time I had done that in forever. And it's amazing how I had to do surgery on myself, right? And I was being such a big baby. But that reminded me of one time, and this was crazy. I one time got a really long splinter across my palm. And I wasn't bleeding, but it was definitely like right under the surface. And I remember one of my sweet teachers, my mom, it was during school, so my mom wasn't there. She probably would have done the same thing. But you ever notice that when your mom, when you've got something traumatic like a splinter, and your mom, it's traumatic. It's like, okay, you have to pull something out of your child, right, while they're screaming and flailing. But my mom and my teachers were always so kind about it. Like, they talk to you, they get down on your level, right? The Queen of Cups is like that. They don't do anything without your consent. They keep everything. They understand how you're feeling, and they'll talk you through it. And I remember both times with my teacher and with my mom, anytime I'd have a splinter, it was like, I'm sitting here, tears streaming down my face, and they'll be like, okay, what I'm gonna do, we're gonna count to 3, it's gonna be okay. They're not holding you down, they're talking you through it. And then they very lovingly pull it out, and then they bandage you up, and they're like, good job. They know how you feel, and they're not going to do anything that's going to make you, that's going to hurt you. They're going to help you through it, right? And that situation wise, that is this woman. You're going to be okay. You're in good hands. You're in someone who's not going to do anything to you that's going to harm you. They're going to help you get through the emotions. And then the last thing is that when it comes to people, it can definitely first and foremost be your mom, be your mama. If you see this next to kind of Virgo cards, or if you see this next to like something that hints as a Earth, it can also be a surrogate mom or someone who's like a mom to you. It can be your best friend's mom who's always got an open door and your favorite chips. But you know, my dad, my great aunt, didn't have any children of her own, and my dad always said she was like a second mother to me. You know, but Virgos are really the sign of aunts, or you know, cousins, or somebody who's like a second mom to you. It's someone who feels really deeply. It's someone who, it can be a psychic, or it can be your best friend, someone that you have a telepathic link to. Also, situational rise, it can be someone that you're speaking telepathically to, like through the 5D, someone that you're having dreams about. So a lot of times that can be a love interest. You know, if this comes up in the chart, you know, if this comes up in a spread, if you're a man asking about a woman, it's someone that you feel this person. It's almost like the red string of fate or destiny. You sense what they're sensing. The other thing is with the moon and the reflection, it's almost like if have you ever had it where just in the middle of the day you start feeling sad for no reason, or maybe you're feeling just kind of meh, and then all of a sudden you get real happy? Sometimes that can be telepathy with someone else. You know, you're picking up on their emotions because you've got the thread of intuition. It can be a visionary woman, a real artistic woman. It can be an artist, someone who creates music or creates art. It can definitely be someone who volunteers for good causes, very empathetic causes. Usually it's a very quiet, you know, kind of. She doesn't do it for the acclaim. She does it for, you know, being there for others. It can be someone who volunteers at a women's shelter, a pet shelter, a food, that feeds, a social worker. It can be a nurse. It can be a midwife or someone who delivers babies or works with babies. It can be, you know, an animal lover. But it can also be someone who meditates or someone who teaches new age kind of subjects. And last but not least, it can be someone who's very in tune with others and a little bit susceptible. You know, like she's impacted by the plight of others. So any person, man or female, but it's someone who has very strong emotions that way. Now, when you look at the Queen of Cups in reverse, anytime a card is in the reverse, it means one of two things. It either means the energy is blocked, or it's manifesting negatively. If the energy is blocked, this is someone who is a little bit cut off from their feelings. This is someone who is not expressing how they feel. A lot of times it can be kind of an emotionally, usually when you see it in the reverse, the first thing it can mean is someone who's a little bit emotionally fickle, meaning that their emotions swing, right? So when readers see the Queen of Cups, we usually kind of think, unfortunately, in the reverse, it usually means kind of a negative manifestation, just like the Knight. So a lot of times it just means someone who's a little emotionally off balance, someone who is not consistent with their emotions. It can be, you know, one minute they're happy and laughing, the next minute they're moody and, and don't want to be around anyone. Sometimes it can be the sign of like gullibility, you know, someone who's impressionable. This can be someone just like, you know, in the upright, it's someone who gives a lot. Sometimes it can be someone who's easily taken advantage of. They kind of fall. This can be a woman who falls for the sob story. I hate to say it this way because I really do feel for those infomercials, but you know how you used to see the television commercials and they would play that Sarah McLachlan song Angel, and then you would just see, you know, all this, you know, you would see like pictures of abused animals. And it's not that those you know, the groups that are collecting money for that are not putting the money towards that purpose, but it's almost like that. It's like the you know, you'll hand over your money the moment you see someone, and how do you know that they're really doing that cause? You know, so it is someone who can, you know, be kind of taken advantage of. You know, their heartstrings are easily pulled, right? A lot of times it's someone who does kind of have poor judgment. You know, they'll fall for anything. They don't have any emotional boundaries. It can be someone who's just over. Unfortunately, when we see this card in the reverse, it can be someone who's just really emotion, like a drama queen. Someone who really exaggerates or embellishes. I do see this in the reverse as the person that the moment that they have any type of experience, it becomes this big dramatic story. Well, I went in there and I was just absolutely, embarrassed. How dare they? It's like they go into these elaborate tangents over things that are pretty minor. But they get a little bit they get emotional drama, drama rama about it. Sometimes it can be an oversensitivity, again, someone who's just offended by everything. It can be, sometimes it can be a self-indulgence. um, One thing I will point out is that, just like all the cups cards, if you see the queen in reverse next to maybe the nine of cups or the seven of cups, sometimes this can be a sign of a little bit, because it is a cup, it can be a little bit of a sign of alcoholism, particularly wine. Yeah, it can be the sign of a wino. And I mean no offense, but it's one of those things where, with the cup in reverse, it's kind of out of control. And especially with the third deck, because you see the cups like overflowing, right? And, the moon is, above her at this point, right? It's like she's falling, she's showing the reflection, like a negative reflection. So no harm with that. We all get into that. But, and especially when we get into situations, we'll talk about it some more. But, of course, kind of the healthy boundary is everything in moderation. If you're having one cup, no problem. If it's really getting extreme, if you're really, if it gets to be a little bit too much, either that, or if you do have that one friend that, when you go out partying, that they're going to kind of indulge a little bit, that might this might come up in the reverse as a significator of that. Sometimes it can be in a lazy person, and not to be mean, but again, with it being an emotional person, it can be that person who just doesn't feel like getting up. I know this sounds crazy. If you've ever seen the Jane Austen, if you've either read the book or watched the movie of Jane Austen's Persuasion, Anne Elliot's sister Mary, she's a little bit of the Queen of Cups in reverse. Like the first scene when you meet Mary, she's laying on the couch and it's like midday and she hasn't gotten up yet. And she's like, well, I just can't eat a thing and everyone's left me alone. And she's kind of like the epitome of all these things. She's over exaggerating. She's being drama. She's acting sick just because she's feeling out of sorts. But the moment that Anne comes over and then everybody notices Anne's over, then she's like, oh, well, I'm hungry now. She wants to get with the program because people are paying attention to Anne. It is kind of like that. It's someone who is so bogged down by their emotions. If they're having a bad mood, they'll get drama about it. And sometimes that can lead to just being a little bit lethargic in kind of that drama way. It can be someone who's a little silly or superficial. Again, they're caring about like all the wrong things. They're getting moody about stupid stuff. Sometimes it can be confusion. If you see this in reverse next to the Seven of Cups, it can be someone who's a little out of it. In the same vein of like drinking, it can be someone who, if they're taking if someone who takes medication and it makes them loopy, it can kind of be like that. Again, it's like it's your emotions are affected, or you're almost, again, like all cups, you're kind of tripping a little bit, and it makes for confusion or indecision, or just a general fogginess. It can be someone who daydreams way too much. One other thing that I do see, and just to compare it to one other Jane Austen movie, is that in Mansfield Park, the Fanny Price's uncle, his wife is so loopy. Like she's always out of it. And actually in that story, what it was is that she took opium every day, you know. And it's funny, it's like she doesn't manage what the children are doing. She doesn't pay attention to any of that. She just kind of sits in the background. And in one scene, you know, the children decide to stage a play in their father's office, and their father's office is off limits. Everybody knows this, right? Like you don't go near dad's office. And she's the mom, she should know that, right? And then, you know, she sits back, you know, all kind of doped up, and her husband comes home, and he, you know, he screams at everyone, and then he comes around the corner and she's like, "Oh, I'm so glad you're home, I missed you." And it's you know, you're like, oh, okay, you know, if you miss me so much, why didn't you do something about the children? You know, it's kind of a little bit of that, right? You know, a little lost in the sauce. You know, so again, it can be that daydreaminess, that just in that negative sense, you're just kind of lost in your own kind of delusions. Sometimes it can be really kind of lost in your imagination, in that kind of dissipation kind of way. Sometimes it can be real negative thinking, and again, with this in the reverse, one other thing is that because of the moodiness of this card, it can be a sign of psychological disorders. Like it can be, the first thing that I kind of think of is bipolar disorder. Again, you know, one minute you're happy and engaging, the next minute you're screaming at people, the next minute you're crying. You know, the other thing is that it can be, you know, negative thinking in the real depression sense. If you see this next to surrounding cards that indicate that. Now, if you see this in the reverse next to like a page or a knight, this can be someone's mother who suffers with these disorders, and that is really, really hard. It might, you know, again, we talked last week about how the Knight of Cups acts the way he does because of certain psychological disorders. If your mom's depressed, or you know, got any type of depression, bipolar. One other thing that I do see, especially with the Queen in reverse, is that this is the mom who can be emotionally manipulative. Like in the upright, she wants to raise her children the right way where they are self sufficient. She wants to emotionally nurture and prepare them. In the reverse, sometimes the Queen of Cups wants to keep her children dependent on her, because it can be because she just wants to kind of, it's a little bit of the smother mother kind of thing. She either wants to keep control over them, either for money or for, you know, so they never leave her. So this can definitely be the sign of like apron strings. If you're, you know, if your husband or your boyfriend, you can kind of see the danger signs of that. You know, there's a lot of really great videos and articles that talk about what to look for. But the other thing is that she is the queen of the guilt trip too. She knows how to emotionally manipulate. She also knows how to use kind of your, she knows how people operate psychologically, and she knows how to use that to her advantage. So unfortunately, you know, this can be somebody who, you know, kind of, you know, does things in that way. Now, in a more mature sense, if you're dating a Queen of Cups in reverse, or if this is honestly coming out as your energy, um, it can be somebody, and we talked about this with the Knight, it can be a woman who controls emotionally. And that can be with sex, because the other thing is the cup. You know, if you've ever seen Da Vinci Code, the cup is the symbol of the vessel, and it can definitely be a feminine's parts, if not to get graphic. But and believe it or not, you know, women can, you know, sex is a method of control. You know, once somebody, and the other thing is that, you know, what keeps a couple together is emotional dependence on one another, the way that someone makes you feel. And if somebody makes you feel safe, if someone makes you feel that, and with the reverse, it can be very, very manipulative, right? The other thing is that it can be, you know, it can be somebody who is flirtatious. Again, just like the Knight, it could be someone who gives her cup to a lot of people, and she does it for the emotional, you know, puppet strings that it gives her. It can be someone who's unfaithful, you know, an emotionally unfaithful woman. But the other thing is that, it can be someone who's just lacks sympathy, someone who has a cold heart. It can be a real cold hearted witch, either that or someone who kind of uses your secrets against you. Sometimes it can be like really false hopes, like, you, again, just like the night you pent all of your, hopes on something and it didn't work out. It can be someone who has little regard for reality. And again, it can be someone who's very, she's unpredictable, right? And it's interesting because a lot of times this queen kind of looks like she's got it all together, but once you get to know her and you kind of see, there's usually like a real unreliability. Now, she is the woman who will kind of gossip. You think of a cup, she's good at spilling the tea, but she's also, if you look at it in a relationship concept, this can be the woman who is clingy. She has a dependency issue, right? She'll hold on, again, she'll hold on to someone emotionally. If you don't stay, she'll accuse you of abandoning her. If you don't do what she wants you to do, then she can either freak out and have like fits of hysteria, like really get emotionally worked up, or she'll talk about you, or she'll try to garner sympathy for her cause by making you look bad. And again, that's the emotional, that's the psychological. Now, on the little bit more of the unreliable kind of side is that, the other thing that you kind of see with this is that it can be just someone who is so dreamy that they can never take care of themselves. So if this is kind of like a mother situation, it can be that mom that just, she's needy. Like you always, it, unfortunately, in the reverse, this can be a little bit of that soul sucking energy, right? Like it's like, oh God, I gotta go over and take care of my mom. It's gonna be like 4 hours and she's gonna drive me crazy. And again, it's that a little bit more of that guilt tripping where it's just like, but I can't do it on my own. And that's not a bad thing. It's just there are some people, again, it's like the apron strings, it's done intentionally, right? It's someone who's very emotionally, the cup is empty, right? So, but a lot of times it can be the martyr. It can be a woman who's been martyred. It's like needless self-sacrifice. Somebody who's always just, again, this can be someone who's always falling for the sob story, or really, getting like emotionally taken advantage of. But a lot of times it can be that person that and I hate to say it this way, it's almost that person who just, it drains you emotionally. Like you see them calling and you don't want to talk to them because you just feel like they're just gonna, the other thing that you get is that, under the gossip label, a lot of times it's that person who just, it's the Debbie Downer. Unfortunately, it's the person who always wants to talk crap, or nothing in their life is going right, or it's always woe is me, right? And again, it's the hand on the head, oh, woe is me, why has this happened to me, so either that or it's kind of living in that fantasy world. Sometimes it can be a sign of dementia or some type of mental illness that's extreme. But, usually it can be that a little bit, if we had to relate it to a movie, sorry for the background noise, it can be a little bit of that fatal attraction kind of thing, right? The woman, she's very good about getting people to rely on her. And then, if she uses it in a malicious way, that can definitely be the queen manifesting in the reverse. Now, when it comes to situations in the reverse, is that, it can mean that it can be a call that maybe your emotions are clouded, or that you might not be able to trust your instincts right now, or you just need to examine. There might be, more that you have to see. Something is clouding your judgment. Sometimes it can mean that you're being a little too empathetic. Maybe you need to enable some boundaries, especially if you see this next to the Queen of Swords in the upright. You got to think more with your head than your heart. Don't fall for the line, the sob story. The other thing is choose your advisors carefully. You might be having a few people who are playing on your emotions. You know, sometimes it can mean that you're in a codependent relationship, or that you're sacrificing your life, or you're sacrificing what's important to you needlessly. Um, you know, the other thing is that sometimes it can be the sign of an enabling. You know, maybe you're enabling someone else's bad behavior. And again, under the mother category, there's kind of two ways that that manifests. Maybe you're, you know, if your child's gambling and you keep giving them money, or you keep bailing them out. Maybe if your child's in, you know, doing drugs, or, you know, drinking, and you're not, you know, you're not trying to stop them. It's you're And it's not a bad thing. I don't want this to be triggering. I'm sorry. But, you know, I know it's really, really hard, but it's one of those things where if you continue to, if you, again, if you don't enable boundaries, then it's almost, you know, nurturing in a negative sense. And then the last thing that I do kind of see with this is that when it comes to situations, this can very much be the helicopter mom. Just like I said with my mom, you know, she was texting me like, "Are you okay?" I just want, you know, one word answer. Let me know, yes, mom, I'm okay. Sometimes this can be the moms that they kind of screw up their children psychologically because they're constantly hovering, right? And it's usually in a protective sense, like, you know, like they want to they never want their children to get dirty, they never want their children to get hurt, so it's like they wrap them in a bubble, but they're constantly hovering, and they do it under the guise of, well, I want to protect you, but that messes with the child, right? That's a little bit too much emotional nurturance. It's almost stunting. It's hurting more than it's helping. So a lot of times it can be those situations where, where you're showing too much love in kind of a negative way. But definitely when it comes to people, it can be, it can be the charming busybody, you know, the woman who wants to be all up in the ice cream, you know, don't know the flavor. Someone who's the real drama queen, the Debbie Downer, a little bit of the soul sucker. Sometimes it can be a real emotionally cut off woman, someone who doesn't express emotions. And also in a little bit more of the nice sense, sometimes it can be someone who's very emotionally withdrawn. You know, someone who doesn't let their emotions show. It's almost like, you know, this can be the sign of someone who's too rational, where their heart is really closed off. The other thing is that sometimes this can be a sign that spirit really wants to try to reach you, but your heart is blocked, right? So this can be a sign of like a blocked heart chakra as well. Just like the Queen of Swords in the upright can be a bitter, kind of scorned woman, the Queen of Cups in reverse can be someone who's been hurt so bad that she just wants to close off her heart and never try again. And that's a really sad kind of thing. But in other veins, in the reverse can be an unfaithful lover. It can be man or female. Assign the genders as it resonates. But it can also be a fair weather friend, someone who has emotional, disorders like depression, or bipolar, or someone who gets real hysterical, someone who might have some kind of emotional kind of imbalance, or someone who just is not ruled by rationality, someone who really is kind of adrift in the way that they think and the way they behave. But whether in the upright or the reverse, the Queen of Cups is a very, very loving card. It's a very dreamy card, and it's usually a very warm, nurturing, and caring woman. But all right, guys, so that concludes the how-to part. We're going to go ahead and get into the reading. We've got 3 beautiful decks here. And the first deck is the Rider-Waite-Smith, and with it we have a beautiful Sunstone. Second deck is the Witch's Tarot by Ellen Dugan, and we have a beautiful Citrine. The third deck is the Sun and Moon Tarot by Vanessa Decort, I believe, and with it we have a beautiful Obsidian. I think it's an obsidian. It's known as dragon glass, yes. And then to clarify, we have I know this has a little bit of a cheesy name. I think I'm saying it right. It's like the Oracle, the magical Oracle of Dolphins and Mermaids. But believe it or not, these cards have really positive images, and with the water, and again, as other decks really depict the queen as like a mermaid, and on top of it we have a beautiful piece of Amazonite. But if you need more time, please pause the video. Please choose from your Queen of Cups intuition, and I'll see you in a minute. Okay, we're back. We're going to jump right in. Deck number 1, the Rider-Waite-Smith. Queen of Cups. How does the Queen of Cups manifest in your life? Ooh, right off the cuff. Okay. Oh, this is interesting, guys. Knight of Pentacles, 8 of Swords. Okay, I'm definitely getting a story here. Let's go ahead and get your oracle. Make sure everything is on. Sorry, these How to Tarots run a little bit long sometimes. Okay, so the Mermaids and Dolphins deck. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Oh my gosh, you're seeing this, right? Oh my gosh. Oh, wow. Oh, I'm getting such a story, guys. Ooh, ooh. Oh my gosh. Oh, sweetie. All right. I kind of read this one of two ways. You know what? I'm going to read it the first way, and I'll throw out the second way, but I'm almost positive that the first way is the correct one. I think that this is about your mother. I strongly get a sense that this is about your mother. I think in the past, what I get is that in the past, I get it, you've got the Chariot, and then you've got the Four of Swords. I really get the sense that I get the sense that you, in the past, that there was a separation from your mom. And what I get is that, you know, the Chariot can mean traveling, like having to travel far distances. And the other thing that I get is what I'm strongly drawn to is that with the Chariot, the Chariot is about willpower, and you see how there's two sphinxes that are going opposite directions, light and dark. And we talked about how like the moon reflects the sun's light. And this is really interesting, guys. Your oracle card actually shows King Trident, who's the king of the sea, and the Queen of Cups is like the queen of the sea, right? I'm getting this. I knew this is going to be a deep read because I connect to the water of it. I feel it. I feel it in my heart. What I'm sensing, guys, is that, and believe me, I'll just let you know. Me myself, I am a product of divorce. Both of my parents went on to remarry, and I'm very blessed. I feel like I got two sets of parents out of the deal. But I am getting a strong sense that growing up, you really had to kind of balance out the energy of your two parents. I get the sense, like, I'm getting a strong sense that you had parents that lived in two different major cities. I'm not sure what that is, and that you either drove between them. The other thing that I always really get, and I know this sounds crazy, is that in putting the astrologer hat on for a minute, I've noticed that children who have parents that eventually divorce, and I'm not trying to predict anything. I don't see astrological charts in that way. You can, people do cast charts to try to predict how things will go, but just general compatibility, you can kind of tell, okay, is this going to be a long-lasting union or will it not? Will it stand the test of time? But one thing I've noticed is that when you have a husband and wife that are really opposite, or they square a lot, but they have children, what I've really noticed is that when you see just like the sun is the divine masculine and the ego, the sense of self, in the astrological chart, the sun is the sense of self. The moon is your emotions. It never fails that when I look at a chart, and my chart included, my sun is square my moon, and I have an entire stellium that backs it up. Like I have a stellium conjunct my sun, squaring the stellium that conjuncts my moon. And it becomes like this, right? And what I'm kind of seeing here is I'm seeing that your mom was of one temperament and your father was of a different temperament. And there was parts of you that really empathized with your father. Maybe something about, I'm getting, you know what I'm almost getting, and with your oracle cards, maybe your sun sign was a square to your father, but your moon sign was complementary to your father, and vice versa. Um, and what I get is I'm kind of getting two things in this past position. You learned at a very young age how to balance your parents, but it's almost like, again, this is like willpower. It's like taking two opposing energies and getting them to go the same direction. The other thing I kind of get is that maybe you were really the mediator for your parents. Maybe you had to travel between them. One other thing I get is that I do get a sense that maybe you had to travel to see your mom. Um, but it created a need for a lot of healing. It's almost like you really, I think this affected you. Like the way that you had to kind of be two people and the way that you had to manage it. I think um, it gave you a lot of willpower, because that's the other thing. When you have a chart, like for instance, I'll even tell you, my sun is in Libra, and then my moon, which rules Cancer, is in the sign of Cancer, and those two square each other. And I'm stubborn as hell. Like my willpower is off the chart, and I get the sense that, and especially when you have parents of different energies, or you have to kind of go between them and you have to appeal to both of them, and that you feel like you have two worlds, two lives. And the other thing is that, again, when the only reason I say divorce is because that really plays into it, because when you know what your parents disagreed about, but when your mom, you know what's okay with your mom, that if you said that in front of your dad, he'd wig out. Same thing, vice versa. The stuff that your dad would pull, that your mom would get pissed off about, you don't mention around her. So again, it's like that. The other thing that I kind of get is that it's almost like you had to be a little bit of a people pleaser, or you had to keep the peace. That's the other thing I get with this. It's like you had to hold them all together, right? But it took willpower. It took your personal willpower. I also think that it caused a really bad split within yourself that you constantly have to manage. And I think that you have an affinity for your mom. I think she's a very nurturing person. But what I kind of get is that, so I think in the past, I do get a sense that this might be a divorce thing. I do get a sense, like, I'm hearing two major cities. I'm sorry, I'm totally hearing two major cities. Also, all these stars, I'm getting a square of astrological signs, different moons. Different moons. And this is crazy, guys. I'm sorry that I'm hearing this. Your moon either conjuncts your mom's sun, or your mom and your dad's moon square one another, but it makes some kind of cross in your own chart, which is very common. It's very common. Again, the universe makes no mistakes. You were born with a chart that is compatible. You are there to help be a part of your family dynamic, and the part of the family dynamic is that I think you were very connected to your mom, but you either had to keep that hidden to kind of appeal to the masculine side, or either that, or it's almost like, again, you had to be two different people and you had to manage it. And I'm so sorry, guys. Believe me, I understand. When you have children, are like little sponges. We totally soak up all of that energy, especially when there's disagreements about like core value kind of things. And but I do get the sense that you knew how to keep the peace, and it's almost because you watched. The other thing that really comes out of this, that and I don't think it was not intentional. Believe me, I don't think any parent says, okay, I'm gonna fight with my spouse and screw up my kid. I don't think anybody goes into that thinking that. But But I do think that what happens is when you stand up for what you believe in, one thing that you see a lot with children of divorced parents, and definitely with me as well, is that every single time, your parents disagree or fight in front of the children, fight in front of you as a child, you somehow think that it's your fault. And the other thing that children do, especially if this happened when you were younger, is that you think if I stay very well behaved, if I behave myself, right? The other thing I kind of get is that you if you stay quiet, if you stay peaceful. One other thing that I get a lot, because especially with wands being in the center, you don't take any action because you don't want to upset anyone, but it is, you are of the wands element, and it hurts you. Like I get a strong sense you have fire in your chart. You have strong fire in your chart. The other thing that I get is that I get a strong sense that like the aspects of your chart want to be released. They need to be exercised, but you're so used to keeping the peace. You're so used to keeping the peace. Like, if you're so used to appealing to mom and dad, to driving to their house and behaving one way, driving to another house in another city. I'm getting major cities here too, guys. I'm seeing the two different, and the funny thing is they're very similar, but one is for your mom, one's for your dad. And again, you just by sheer power of will, um I'm getting a strong sense. The other thing that I'm getting is I'm getting fire, and I'm getting Saturn energy, which is understandable because Saturn energy is really that kind of a stare. One thing about Saturn energy, and that can be the planet of Saturn conjunct planets in your natal chart, or you can actually have planets. You can have planets, Sun, Moon, Mercury through Pluto in Capricorn. Um, I'm actually getting a little bit more of a conjunction though. I'm getting a sense that you have some kind of Saturn in fire that's conjunct other major planets. So you feel really stifled. It's almost like if you didn't have to please everyone, you would be a very dynamic, go getter, vivacious person. But from a young age, saying, okay, I understand how my mom operates, I understand how my dad operates, you know, let me keep the peace. If I'm a good boy, if I'm a good girl, they won't fight. Or the other thing that I kind of get, one other way I kind of interpret this is because, remember, Queen of Cups, she feels out people. So if this is your feminine inside, you know how to feel out people from that early dynamic. You've learned from a young age how to channel the will, or how to appeal to strong-willed people. But this is a mausoleum though. It's like, let me be still. No sudden movements is what I'm hearing. No sudden movements. But the chariot is full speed ahead, right? But the thing about the chariot is that he's channeling two opposing forces to go the same direction. Now, I do get the sense that you connected more to your mom. I think you connected more to your mom, but I think your dad was probably kind of hard on you. Um, I do think that you have elements of support for both sides. Um, but the middle energy that I'm getting here, what I'm really getting is that all that emoting for other people, if the Queen of Cups is your energy, you probably sacrificed a little too much, right? It made it where you were so busy caring about what everybody else needed, no sudden movements, let me be quiet, let me be still, I know that this parent needs that, I know that this parent needs this. Is that what it created? Was it created the Ten of Wands and the Page of Wands, which really speaks of, this is taking on burdens of other people, and it's weighing you down. You don't get to be spontaneous for yourself because you're too busy using your energy to please them. And then it's making you a little bit emotionally stunted. It's almost like if you were actually given the freedom, if you put the other 9 rods down, if you stopped, if you say, okay, I'm not gonna, I'm gonna stop people pleasing. It's almost like you would feel like a child again. You wouldn't know what to do with yourself. Um, Now that we do have quite a few, like I believe, like in the late 70s, Saturn was in Leo. So if you have a Saturn in Leo conjunct, especially a Sun in Leo or other planets like a stellium there. Um, the other thing that I kind of get is that maybe you have a Saturn that's either opposite or square your moon. Um, the other thing that you can get is in the late 80s, there was Saturn was Saturn was in Sagittarius, and I think there was a pretty strong stellium, like Sun, Mercury, Uranus. Wow, that's a real strong planet too. Because to have your Uranus is the planet of spontaneity and breaking free from restriction. To have that conjunct Saturn, that would make you a real power keg. That would make you like a firecracker ready to go off. Um, but what I'm seeing here is that the nature of Saturn is, if you've ever seen the movie The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, he was born old and he grew young. That is Saturn energy. What it is that you have a really heavy task early in life, and then as you get older, you learn how to handle heavy responsibility, but then you do learn how to put things down. So the Queen of Cups could be your emotional maturity, right? You can be a man in this energy, you can be a woman in this energy. Maybe you had a real austere kind of early upbringing. Maybe you really had to learn how to balance, you learn how to channel willpower at a very young age. And what's happening is that emotional maturity is, you understand when you see other people going through that same struggle, you empathize and you know how to help them because you've been there. Or this could be that, again, this could be your mom from this, that was, you had the dynamic that you had with her growing up. And what it is that you're currently trying to, you know, you're, again, like Benjamin Button, you're finally coming to a point in your relationship with your mother where you're saying, okay, I need to put this burden down. You know, everything that I went through, you were there, you saw me go through it. I need to put it down and I need to be my own person. It's almost like you're daring to I think you've accomplished the lessons of the Saturn transits. And either that, or this could involve your mother, where again, in the past you knew how to manage the willpower involved, but now you just kind of feel, I get the strong sense like you feel like you have all this fire in you, but it's just so bogged down, it's held down, and it's like you're taking on, it's like you're not able to express it, and it's stunting you. It's making it, all you want to do is go out and experience life. But so the kind of two ways that I see this is that this could be your mom, where you're finally you're growing up, you're getting out of the Saturn element where it's like, I want to be young again. I want to put down all of this burden. I'm not going to please anyone anymore. And I think what you're doing is, I think your mom's saying, okay, yes, you need to do that, right? He's understanding and saying, yes, it's a long time coming, Benjamin Button, grow young, don't grow old. You've already done your work. The other way I can kind of read it is that maybe currently you are kind of burdened by a mother figure, but not in a bad way. I don't think that she wants to be a burden to you. It's just, again, I just get this sense like, you're working really hard for this person, but she's always your mother, right? You feel like a child compared to her, right? she's, you know, this emotionally mature person, and I do kind of sense like you are still trying to please her, like you're still people pleasing, but you're working real hard in your fire way, right? You're trying to take action for her, but you do still feel like a child. I get the sense like you almost feel like it's not enough, even though you're really kind of killing yourself. You feel like it's still not enough, right? Like you're again, like you just can't. You either feel like you can't do right by her, but I get the sense that I also get the sense that she's very emotionally evolved. Like she understands. The other thing is that I think she's very nurturing to you. I do think that she's there for you spiritually and emotionally. Now, one other way that I can kind of see it is it's quite possible that you might be the Queen of Cups and you might have a little one who's a fire baby. and and what it is that you just might be working really hard for that child right now. If you're a man watching this, then this could be your wife and your child. And again, you know, this can be father, mother, and son, or a girl, you know. I do kind of get the sense like this is a child. If this is you, you feel like a child. But, you know, but the Queen of Cups can definitely be someone who's very there for you emotionally. The other thing is in the upright, she's a very emotionally faithful person. Like she's a good wife. She's a good wife and mother. The other thing I kind of get is that if you are a man watching this, you might be working really hard to support her because she is a good mom. She's raising your child right. Now, as you go forward, I do kind of see that there might be a little bit of balancing of money, and finances might be a little up and down. It might be a little bit of a juggle. Again, if this is your mom, maybe she does need some financial help, and you're again, what I'm definitely getting Capricornian feelings here. What I'm kind of getting is that maybe you're trying to be the spouse. Like if your mom is a widow, I'm just going to kind of clarify this. What's the relationship between the page and the queen, please? Three of Swords. King of Swords. I'm getting divorce, guys. Maybe your mom has gone through a divorce, and it could be with a really cold man. It's quite possible that this could be, if you are the Queen of Cups, this could have been kind of, again, an ugly kind of divorce with somebody who's being very verbally cold. And you're not taking any offense, like you're keeping your emotional on the level, but if this is your mother, you might have felt like your father was just very, very cold, very cerebral, like very mental. Again, you might feel like your mom. I'm really noticing the braids. Maybe your mom like braids her hair. But yeah, what might be happening is you might be taking on, you know what I'm kind of getting here? I get the feeling like maybe, you know, maybe you're kind of grown and you felt like your mom was okay, but maybe she either went through a divorce, either from your father, or if it's a second marriage, and now all of a sudden you're taking on the burden of trying to help her. But it's gonna make you juggle, because you do see that these are two young people. You yourself might be younger, or again, just compared to her, you're not, you know, you're not as far along. You may not have a career settled yet, but it's your mom, right? And you want to be there for her, even though it's going to lean on you financially. It's going to make you a little up and down financially. And also with the water being very fluctuating, She's a very stabilizing force, though. She helps calm you, but it is, again, you feel like a child in her presence. Now this is interesting here, guys, is that you got Father healing, and again, he looks like King Trident, which really kind of looks like the counterpart there. And your personal power increases as you give any father-related issues to heaven. Yeah, guys, this might be some kind of divorce situation. I was really getting that. Like, you want to take care of your mom. Like, the other thing I get is that you always felt like your mom was on the emotional level. Like, she was the one who she was the glue. She was like the emotional glue. And you want to take care of her, but it's expensive and it's hard. It's hard. The other thing I get is that it's like forcing you to be an adult. It's forcing you to grow up and take responsibilities very early, and you might not be ready for it yet. Again, you're just a page. You're still just trying to make your way in the world. You can't have full-on adult responsibilities, but I get the sense like they were kind of forced upon you. I also get, with this, it's like it feels kind of third party. It's pain experienced by all three people. The other thing I get is that if this was like a father or father figure, it's like, there's that, again, I get that strong sense like you had to deal with both personalities, and it does, it kind of stunts you. It hinders you when you have to be an adult at a young age. That to make someone go through that, Capricornian and Saturn energy is very hard that way. And I do see that with the father healing. Your personal power, like you taking your power back, increases as you surrender father related issues to heaven. Like, give it over to God. Like, okay, if my father was not a good example, if he was controlling, if he was verbally abusive, or, maybe your mom was in a second marriage and she got divorced, and, she took a lot of slings and arrows. Go ahead and give that over to God. Now, one other thing that I kind of see, which is interesting, is that I never noticed this before, is that there's a little bubble there that looks like it has a mermaid in it. And you see how he's just lording over it? Yeah, I do get the sense like there might have been some messed up, The other thing I kind of get is that maybe there was some messed up father dynamics here. And here we have a second card. This is interesting. It says empowerment. And it's like another angel here. You're more powerful than you realize. It's safe for you to be powerful. And here it says personal power. Your personal power increases. I don't think that you've felt like you've had any personal power. I think you felt like it always belonged to someone else. Really you felt like it belonged to your spouse, like it belonged to your father. But that really speaks to me. You are more powerful than you realize, and it is safe for you to be powerful. You don't have to be in any man's bubble, right? Now, it's quite possible if this is your energy, maybe you did go through some kind of breakup. I really get the sense with a king and a queen, it might be a divorce. You might have a little one that you have to think about, or just kind of juggle finances. The other thing that I get is that you might be, we did talk about introspection. Sometimes the Queen of Cups calls you to look within, or to kind of get, to really turn over to God. I think it's telling you that it's okay for you to be powerful. Whatever, negative male kind of dominance that you experienced, whether you felt like you had to people please, or whether you felt like you had to be quiet, you're going to be okay. And you are more powerful than you realize, and it is okay for you to be powerful. That Queen of Cups, you're emotionally strong. You're emotionally strong. And there might be some waves, there might be some ups and downs, but you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. You're going to be able to juggle it. You're going to be okay. The other thing is that if you are a child taking care of your mother, it is going to be kind of up and down. You might have to really turn within to kind of question, you might be trying to be the man for somebody. You might be trying to step into the shoes of a father role. But you are more powerful than you realize, and it is safe for you to exhibit that power, right? It's also okay for you to be emotionally strong. And it will be okay. There'll be some ups and downs, but it'll be okay. Wow, guys. Oh my gosh, that was deep. That was really deep. But, wow. Okay, so moving on. Deck number 2, we've got The Witch's Tarot by Ellen Dugan and the Citrine. Okay. And so deck number 2. Ooh, okay. Go with the top card. Wow, cool. Oh my god. Oh my gosh. Second time the King of... This is the second time the King of Swords and the Queen of Cups directly... Whoa. Okay, future energy. Oh my gosh. These are all majors. Moon, Ace of Swords, Three of Cups. Okay, I definitely get a different story, but this is pretty wild, guys. Wow. Oh my gosh. Okay, so let's go ahead and get your advice card. Okay, wow, this is amazing. Okay. Okay. All right, this is pretty wild. Okay, so we've got a lot of majors here, guys. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and we got an ace. This is... All right, this is really wild. So in the past, we got the World. And this is really neat. This is the Green Man. So he talks about he speaks of having like a communion with nature, but he also talks about like the protection. There's there in your recent past a cycle closed, and this was a very powerful cycle. Like, this is life changing, and I don't mean to get all woo woo when I say that, but basically you've experienced a lot and you have grown so much. Like, you've had probably some really tough emotional experiences. I want to say probably the last let me just see here, how many years? Okay, so probably, honestly, in the last, I'd say probably the last 5 years. But you're really wrapping up a cycle in your life. I do get the sense that you learned a lot emotionally from it. Like, you've learned, you've become very emotionally in tune, and I just feel like you've matured so much. And your present energy, so you're closing out a cycle. The other thing that I get is I'm getting a lot of divine timing here. I'm getting divine timing. The other thing that I'm getting is that there are 2 cards here that talk about the 4 elements. You got the 4 seasons, which are the fixed signs. You've got the eagle, which is Scorpio, the lion, that's Leo, the stag, which is Taurus. I mean, it's supposed to be a bull, but it's Taurus, which is the earth sign. And then you've got, it's supposed to be the water bearer, which is Aquarius. But the fixed signs are about, like, closure, right? The fixed signs, they close out a season. Like, Taurus season is like the closure of spring. Leo is the closure of summer, when you get towards the end of August. We get into September, and then it's like you're starting to feel fall at that time. And what it is especially with the Green Man, I feel like this is a very natural transition for you. The other thing that I get is that the closure of this cycle, you instinctively know. Like, I get the sense that you are very in tune with nature. And I think that that your experiences, and I do think that this is a heart thing. I think that you've had maybe a few love relationships, and because it's a king and queen, it could be a marriage. But it's definitely heart-centered, soul-level kind of connections. But I get the sense that you have developed so much. The other thing that I get is that you've you've earned the grade, right? Like if you look at life like a spiritual classroom, you've gone ahead and earned the crown, right? Like you got your PhD in feeling, you know. You made it all the way up to the Queen of Cups. The other thing that I get is that you've learned to not. I'm really getting a strong sense like you've been through probably a lot of heartache, but you haven't let it make you bitter. I'm actually getting a strong sense that you actually give back based on your experience. And the universe, because the world and the magician, because so you got the four, the world, you've got the four fixed signs, which is like the closure of a cycle. And it's like the universe saying, okay, you know, this cycle is done. And you are in tune with that. You've done the work. You've done the emotional work. The other thing that I get is that you've turned, if you did experience any pain, which I think you did, I think you turned that pain into an opportunity to help others emotionally or psychologically. Like you've turned around and given that back in a nurturing way, and that just gave you more karmic brownie points, right? So the universe is you're in tune with that. Like you're in tune with the cycle. You're like, okay, I've done it. I've done what I needed to do. It felt right. Again, that psychic intuitive. And so now the universe, what you've got is you've got the last card of the major arcana and you've got the first card. You've got the end and then the beginning. And the beginning has all four elements on the table. You've got the cup, you've got the pentacle, you've got the sword, you got the wand. So what I'm really getting here is that you've hit a level of graduation. You've graduated. And the universe is putting all the elements on the table, and the universe is like, okay, what do you want? The other thing I get is that you are in tune, again, psychically, where you can manifest anything that you want. Right now, you are starting a new cycle. But what I see here, which is really interesting, is that underneath the magician, we've got the King of Swords and we've got strength. And we've got the two lions here, guys. I'm getting a strong sense that somebody from your past, there's somebody that's been kind of, there's been somebody who's strategically watching and waiting, like planning. And you see how he holds a sword, right? The King of Swords is the strategist. Now, if this is your energy, because this can be your energy, like emotionally, you're very mature. So it's again with strength. It's almost like you're holding back, like you're waiting for the right time to start a new cycle. So one thing I do kind of get is that this is quite possible. Like you could be planning to start some kind of new business or some kind of new goal for yourself. It could be in psychology or counseling. It can be in teaching people or nurturing people. And it's almost like it's not the time to start yet, but soon it will be. And you're thinking about it. You're like, man, you're starting to manifest it in your head what you want to do. But right now it's still in the planning stage, and you're giving it a lot of thought. But you're holding yourself back right now. You're going to say, okay, and again, if you're watching this video at the time it posts, we're getting, things are looking brighter regarding the pandemic. Maybe you're again, you survived this last cycle, and this could be pandemic related. And now you're thinking about the future, but you're holding back a little bit. You want to start again. You're ready to start again. You have plans. You got plans, and it's almost like you're marking it out in your head, but you're going to bide your time, right? Because the other thing that you get is you get the infinity symbol over these two characters. These are also that's a big synchronicity. The infinity symbol here and the infinity symbol over the Virgin. Now, one other thing that I do see here is because the world has the four elements, and you see how Leo is here, and there's a lion in strength. This new start, this new beginning that you're planning could very well begin right as, you could be planning to start your new venture at the end of summer before, like, what is it, August 23rd. That is when the sun moves from the sun sign of Leo into the sun sign of Virgo. And that's what this is. This is Leo and Virgo. So you could quite potentially, that might be the date, that might be the time that you're going to transition into this new start. Now, one other way that I kind of read this is it's quite possible that you were dealing with the King of Swords, like someone who's been well withdrawn. They might have been communicating to you some ways, but they're strategizing. Somebody is being really aloof, like they're staying at a distance, but this person has plans. If this king is the magician, he's got plans and he's going to manifest something with you. But he's holding back. That's the other thing, strength. It's like he wants to jump forward, but he's holding back. And he could quite potentially make his intentions known. He might make his intentions known at the end of summer. But this person thinks that you are the Queen of Cups. And I'm hearing, again, I'm just like in the intro, I'm hearing the lyric from Desperado, don't you choose the Queen of Diamonds, boy, she'll beat you if she's able. You know the Queen of Hearts is always your best bet. You've always been the Queen of Hearts. You've always been the Queen of Cups. You've been very good to this person. I also get the sense this person has been keeping tabs on you. The other thing that I kind of get is that I think they've been a little bit cold. I honestly think that you know this person, but you think that they don't care. And but they have a big time plan where they're going to manifest, or they're planning, like they're planning to drop the bomb at the end of summer, or something is coming around, some kind of conclusion is coming around at the end of summer, where where they can manifest what they need to at the end of summer. But if this is your energy, you're planning something that's going to be like a new endeavor, and you're putting a lot of thought and planning into it, but you're holding back. Like you're taming, you're excited about it is what I also get, is that this, and I think if it's a person making you an offer, they're excited about it. They want to lunge forward, but they're not going to. I am getting that, yeah, August 23rd, guys, I would watch that. I would watch that strongly. Now, what's interesting about this is that the future is the moon, and the Ace of Swords kept coming out. And the Ace of Swords is breakthrough. It's epiphany. So what I do kind of get is that you see how this woman kind of looks the same, right? And the moon card, like we said, you know, the Queen of Cups is a very lunar ruled person. So what I'm kind of getting is that I do get the sense that if this is, if this is a career endeavor, you might feel a little bit uncertain about it at first. Like, okay, is this what I want to do? A lot of times the Queen of Cups is, again, it's follow the white rabbit, right? It's like following where your gut leads you. So if it's some kind of new endeavor where you've really put a lot of thought into it, but it's one of those things where, okay, I'm gonna quit my job of being a lawyer, but I'm gonna go become a interior designer or whatever it is, or I'm gonna become a guidance counselor, even though you would be making like 1/10 of the money, right? You might be questioning, like, okay, is this the right thing to do, right? You know, a lot of those, following your gut is not always clear. But what I'm getting in it is, I'm really getting a sense that you're going to have a few moments where you're going to feel a little murky, like, okay, is following my gut the right thing to do? Am I on the right path? But you're going to immediately have, you're gonna have a breakthrough, like an epiphany that says, yes, you're gonna have confirmation that this is the right thing to do. Now, one thing I am noticing is that if this is somebody coming back into your life, you notice how the sword in his hand is the same ace, and this time you see how he has a falcon on his arm, and that falcon is flying through the sky. If this is a person, just like I said, this person has been cold as heck to you. You had no idea that they had any plans whatsoever. I think they might approach you and you might really be like, okay, should I even trust you? But they're gonna come at you with some kind of truth. And I do get the sense with the falcon flying, that falcon was sent with a message from this king. And that's the King of Swords. If you watch the How to Tarot for the King of Swords, he's no joke. He has everything planned out. Um, so again, if it's your energy, I think that you have it planned out, but you do have to kind of follow your gut, and that feels a little murky. But you're gonna have confirmation that you're on the right path. Now, if this is someone coming back in your life, they're going to be trying to manifest to start with you. Now, these elements they're not conflicting, but they're not really compatible. The King of Swords is very intellectual, and he's not very heart-centered. While the Queen of Cups is very emotional and sweet and caring and kind. And it's not that the king isn't, it's just he's definitely more in his head while she's in her heart. So, it kind of makes you ask the question, okay, would those two people be compatible in the long run? And so it's quite possible that maybe, and I do get the sense that it'll be towards the end of the summer, like right as the sun, right at the end of August, as the seasons are changing and the seasons are wrapping up, that you might get an offer from this person and you might not know what to do. But the other thing I kind of get is that this plan that this person had was really kept under wraps. Like, they know every detail about what's going on, and they kept it from you. Like, withheld. Again, strength is about holding back your will. They withheld it from you, but once they hit you with it, it's almost going to be kind of like, should I do this? You know? Again, you're going to have to really, the other thing I'm getting is you're going to have to really rely on your instincts to decide whether or not this is the right thing to do or go with. But the other thing I get is that you'll know what to do. You're going to feel probably a little murky, but the other thing I get is that you're going to have a sign from above. Now, what I think is amazing is this is a big time synchronicity alert. I just want to point out, look at her hair, the mermaid's hair here. And then look at her hair. It's all wispy and flying around. It's very wispy and flying around here. Actually, it's wispy and flying around with the magician too. Oh gosh, guys, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to get joking, but you've ever seen that gorgeous hair slow mo where you just kind of throw your hair back? It's like, oh, it's slow motion. Sorry, but your oracle card you got is, it says, set your sights higher. Increase your standards and expect more for yourself. Don't settle. Don't settle. So gosh, guys, again, I think there's some following your intuition here, but I do also think that there's some planning here. So whether increase your standards means that you don't want to stay in like a job or something that doesn't fulfill you heart-wise, and you're going to go on an emotional journey to find something better. Either that, or if the King of Swords, because the other thing I get with this is I almost kind of feel like the King of Swords, this is his game plan, and he's not letting you in on it. Because that's the other thing that I see with these cards. It's almost like he's making all the plans, and it's almost like you have to feel out what he's doing. It isn't until he comes up and tells you, oh yeah, you know what? I almost get a little bit of a Mr. Darcy feeling from this. You know how when, I'm quoting a lot of Jane in this reading, I didn't expect that. But you know how when Mr. Darcy just walks up, he's been eyeing her the whole time, and she's, they have these interactions, and she thinks that he hates her, but she's getting these mixed feelings when she's around him. And then without any notice, he pops up and proposes, And she's like, no, I can't accept you. And he's like, why? And she's like, because you've been driving me crazy and I thought you hated me. That's why. I'm almost kind of getting this, it's the King of Swords is definitely, he's a good guy. He's a good guy. Honestly, he doesn't wear his heart on his sleeve. The other thing that I get is that he's very honorable when it comes, he's truthful when it comes to his goals, right? He won't lie. He doesn't lie. But what I kind of get is that kind of energy. They're not on the same page because she's left in the dark. She's left to feel out what he's doing. And then when he comes up to her, he's like, okay, here's my game plan. I want you to be on board with it. And she's like, okay, excuse you. Well, squeeze me. Well, okay, 1 minute. 1 minute, por favor. Let me digest this because you just hit me with the bomb. But the other thing that I get is that she's such a compassionate person, and if this is your energy, someone coming up to you and saying, and I'm hearing that whole monologue from Darcy, like, I have struggled in vain and it shall not do, I must tell you how ardently I admire and love you, and it's just like, okay, that's great, but I need to think about this, I didn't get the memo. I didn't get the memo. And I don't think that I don't think that this would be a bad pairing if you love this person and it's a new start, like a new beginning. But I do get with the Magician, that is a manipulative energy. It's not, the definition of manipulate is to handle with dexterity. So it doesn't necessarily mean that it's malicious action. But the very fact that someone is coming up to you and just saying, here, be on board with me, sometimes you do have to increase your standards and say, that's, if this is going to work, we need to have a plan together. It can't just be your plan, and if I think you would be able to emotionally explain that to someone. The other thing is that the Ace of Swords can be laying down a truth like that. It can be, saying how you really feel about something. But I do think that you have some great new changes because you've got the one with the Magician and then you got the Ace of Swords. And if both of these characters is your energy, you know how to plan. You know how to plan. I think just what it is that it's going to be a little bit of a path through the woods because you're both making a plan, but you are also following your gut instinct, and there's going to be times that you do feel a little lost in the woods, but the universe is definitely telling you, don't settle. Don't settle. Expect more for yourself. Expect more for yourself. So whether that's a love situation or, a big life change that's coming, just trust. The other thing is trust your gut instinct, and the truth will be made clear to you. You will see the truth. But, just, trust your instincts, and definitely if you've got the moon energy going on, give yourself whatever time you need to make the right decision in both your head and your heart. Wow, guys. Whew. I knew these were going to be deep reads because it's the Queen, but she's the Queen. All right, guys. So last but not least, we've got the Sun and Moon Tarot by Vanessa Decort. And we've got the Dragon Glass, or the, is it obsidian? I think it's obsidian. Okay, but, all right. So how does, oh, wow. 8 of Cups, 7 of Swords. Oh, honey bunny. Okay, present energy. Good Lord. Wow. We got some royalty showing up in these reads. Good God, guys. Well, it doesn't surprise me because you are a queen. We had one page show up in the first read. It's not totally off, but wow. The courts are all in attendance. All right. Please clarify. 2 of Swords. King of Swords has shown up in all 3 reads. Oh my God. How is that possible? 7 of Pentacles, the Sun, 10 of Pentacles. All right. Good gravy. There's a King of Swords who's in love with the Queen of Cups. I'm just saying. Just saying. Soulmate relationship. That makes a lot of sense. Can I just say this real mental guy, and I'll just call him mental, he's got to be mental, he probably doesn't let his feelings show, but he loves you because you just feel him out. He doesn't, you know what it is that a lot of guys are like that, where, you know, they, I'm sorry, I don't mean that to sound stereotypical, or like a typecasting here. I don't mean it like that. But what I mean is that, you know, men have to be so kind of, they have to be so rational in life. You know, if you're an emotional man, that doesn't go over well. It's almost like you do have to be kind of that King of Swords, real, you know, real kind of that, you know, cool, calm, collected, nothing shakes you. And that doesn't surprise me that the king would go for like a Queen of Cups kind of woman, because it's almost like she feels, she knows what he needs without him have to say anything. But he is a very communicative person. But I'm getting, yes, this is very, very clear. This is very, very clear. I get the sense that you, in the past, you were very emotionally open with someone. And we've got 2 full moons here, by the way. So that also indicates completion of a cycle, right? It's the culmination of a cycle. So that's been kind of a consistent theme as well. But in the past, you got the 7 of Swords, and the key word is futility, right? And you see, the thing is, you see a woman, and this is a neat depiction, because normally the 7 of Swords is the sneaky Pete card with the guy sneaking away, you know, Mr. Shady Man, Mr. Schmuck. But here it's depicted differently. You see a woman, she's holding the sword, and futility is like something being futile, like it's not worth it. It's like, okay, just give up, right? It's not worth it. And then you went from a 7 to an 8. And then the moon is a culmination of a cycle. It's like a 10, right? So, and then the 8 of Cups is walking away. It's walking away. And it's like, actually, you know what I always think of when I see this card is go take a long walk off a short pier. I'm sorry. Maybe that's what you told this guy to do. I do get a sense that you, oh, and we have partners here. You got a Queen and King, and then you got a King of Wands. I am definitely getting a strong sense here. Okay, I'm getting a story, relationship, total relationship read. You really, you connected with someone. I think you were very there for that person emotionally. I think you were very open and kind and giving. And again, I think you showed this person a level of spiritualism that they did not knew existed. I think you really, I'm getting a strong sense that you were very mature with somebody who wasn't really mature with you. And what I'm kind of getting with the 7 of Swords is like, you see how she's holding one sword, but the other 6 are kind of, you know, just sitting in the cloud rare, and she just looks defeated. You know, she's like, okay, this is futile, right? This is futile. I think that you were dealing with someone who you were there for them emotionally, like you were very nurturing to them, and they could not meet you on the same level. They just couldn't meet you on the same level. And you felt like it was futile. I also get a sense that they were being elusive with you. Like maybe they were being sneaky. With the 7 of Swords, I usually give, you know, each sword, you know, when you see a sword, you think of communication. And the fact that, you know, again, you know, you see these 6 swords there, and then she's holding the last one. I really get the sense like maybe it was inconsistent communication or just really one-sidedness. But again, you know, I think that maybe, you know what I'm really getting is that you were trying to reach out to them and connect to them. Maybe you sent a text message and they never contacted you back, or they were, with the 7, it's definitely someone sneaking around. So I do think that somebody was being secretive with you. I don't think they were being upfront with you. I don't think they were being consistent with you. And you finally, I do get a sense that you invested more into them because you're a nurturing person. That's how you are. You're giving, right? You are very open-hearted with this person. And what I also get is that possibly, if this is, because this is a woman and this is a man, I get the sense that, maybe you did kind of question them. The other thing I get with the Queen of Cups is that you know what's going on, right? You're so intuitive, like if somebody doesn't text you back and you start, sorry, I'm going to play with my feather here. If someone doesn't text you back, you're not going to sit there and you know how some girls will be like, oh, maybe they're busy at work. Maybe they're doing this. Maybe they're doing that. I think in your heart of heart, you knew, like you sensed what was going on. You sensed this person was distant. You sensed that you were investing more than they were investing in you. I don't think that I get the sense that you did. I think this did hurt you. But you were emotionally mature enough to manage those waves, right? The other thing I'm strongly getting is that you kind of rose above it. Again, like you walked off the pier and then you just kind of, floated on water. Like you didn't, the other thing I get is that I think that you learned a lot from this experience, and like you didn't drown in the water. You learned how to let the water lift you up. But I do get the sense that somebody was, you gave up on this, right? Somebody was not texting you, not making you a priority. You were giving to them, and a very high, I'm getting a strong sense that you were at a higher level spiritually than they were. And they couldn't match you. And so I think they walked away, or you walked away. I think it was probably a little bit of both, because both of you felt like it was futile. But I am getting a strong sense it was not from lack of trying. You tried to be there for this person. One other thing I'm going to throw out here real quick, just because we got 2 other kings in the mix. I think you got this person to grow up really freaking fast. I think they came at you like a boy, and then you rose above it. You said, okay, look, I'm trying to talk to you. I'm trying to, I don't think, the other thing that I'm also getting, and I don't mean this in a condescending way, not at all. It's just that when you reach that level of emotional evolution, you can't just knock yourself back to a page, right? It's, if someone approaches you and you're emotionally mature, you're not gonna, and I hate to say it, but there's no other way for me to really say it, you're not gonna sink to their level. And I don't mean that in a condescending way, but you can't go backwards. It's not possible for you to do that. You're already a queen. You can't, you can empathize and you can kind of, but I also get I get a feeling of that too. Like maybe this person was just not, and I don't mean this in a mean way, but there's levels of vibration, and maybe this person was trying to get up to that level, but you can't, it's not like going up the steps where you take them 3 at a time, right? That's how you end up with stitches. But what I'm really getting is that it was kind of a mixture of both. You tried to, you were yourself. You were the Queen of Cups, and this person was just not giving you the same in reverse. You were showing them a spiritual level of maturity. The other thing that I get is I think you taught this person a lot about emotional maturity, but at the time that you were going out with this person, they were still just too immature, and they walked away and you gave up. You're like, okay, I tried, but that's what I keep hearing, I tried. And the other thing is, that's the Queen of freaking Cups saying that, I tried. Her tries are different than like a page's. This isn't just like, oh, well, I tried. If the Queen of Cups tried with you and you just walked away, I'm sorry, you're a little stupid. You had the Queen of Hearts. This person had the Queen of Hearts, and they just walked away because they couldn't grow up. But I do, in their defense, I do think that if they were kind of in a lower vibrational either stage in life, again, it's not like running up the stairs. You can't take them three at a time. It would still be stunted growth. Like you're not gonna, that lotus. Remember the roots. It is like going through the chakras. The roots are the roots, and then the lotus bloom is the crown chakra. So it's quite possible that again you were at a little bit of a higher level than they are. Now, your oracle card really plays into this, and this is going to sound crazy because it always does, but, you know, I think that with it being death and rebirth and the Six of Cups, I think that this person from the past, you've always had a psychic connection to. Like, remember we talked about how the Queen can speak to you through the ether or speak to you through dreams. And with it being the King of Wands, which is passion and instinct, and a new romance with a spiritual basis is here for you now. I really think that new romance can be a new person, or it can be like a new start with somebody that you already know. And when it says spiritual, cups are spirit and wands are spirit. Uh, swords is more intellect. And the fact that you got, fire here and the Six of Cups here, I think you're torn, but you really do want to. I think you and this person from the past are speaking because dolphins are like, this is kind of like a soulmate kind of relationship, and it even says that. I think that you really do feel a connection to this person from the past, and it's who you want to go with. But I do think that they have to prove themselves. And in the future, it's either this person trying to show themselves to be faithful, and trying to, again, kind of climb those walls that you've put up with the Queen of Swords energy. But I do think that you have a connection psychically with this person. And I think even if you're apart or you've been distant from one another, that you do, I think that's part of you being head over heart, is because you can still feel this person. I think they're still very much in your heart. So, but I do think moving forward, I think the verdict is still out. I think if this person can prove themselves and again show themselves to be honorable, um, but again, you're emotionally mature enough to make the right decision. But I think just moving forward, this person has to respect your boundaries and that they have to show that they're not going to do anything shady. But I do think that you have a very psychic link to this person, and whether you reconcile with the person from the past, which is what I feel like you want to do, or you go with somebody new in the future, that this whomever you go with is going to be really in tune with you spiritually. Either because they matured and they're of your level now, or because you meet somebody who is at the same frequency and the same maturity that you are. But all right, guys, wow. Now all three, that there was a lot of people in these readings. This is really wild. All three of them were really deep, but I thank you so much for joining me today. I'm this Saturday I do the weekly energy card reading, so I do hope that you can join me again for that. And then if not, I hope to catch you next Tuesday. It's going to be a very special day. It's actually going to be the last How to Tarot, and we're going to be talking about the King of Cups. So I hope to see you then and catch you in the next video. Bye.